Classic TV fans, Rick Nineg here. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about I Love Lucy. Now, this is the 5th out of the 5 videos that I was doing for the I Love Lucy marathon. I was doing 5 straight videos in a row, all I Love Lucy topics. So make sure to check the links in the description for the I Love Lucy playlist, as well as other links that I'll put down there so you can watch the other ones in case you missed them. Here are the thumbnails to them so that you can see what you missed. Be sure to check them out. Show your support for the channel. I think that you'll absolutely love them, especially if you are big fans of I Love Lucy. So let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about an episode called Ricky Thinks He's Getting Bald. Now, this one is a very interesting one from season 1 because it has some connections with the creator Jess Oppenheimer and his issues with his real life baldness, and he kind of put that into this episode. I'm not going to be talking too much about that. Again, there's so much that I could talk about for every episode in a video, but I like to focus on what I'm doing, and there's always overlap on what I do, so you may hear another topic in which I talk a little bit about it but then verge and divulge into something else. That's part of the joy of making a commentary channel. Now, the plot to this is very simple. The episode begins and Ricky starts to notice, and he thinks, as the title says, that he is getting bald, and so he starts to obsess about it, wearing his hat even at the breakfast table with Lucy, because he doesn't want to show off his quote-unquote baldness. And then Lucy is trying to help him. She tries to find out all of these ways to help convince him that he's really not losing his hair. She has to take some drastic measures, even hiring some men to come to the apartment that are really bald to convince him that he is not bald, and Fred showing up with his awesome toupee. But then she goes to the torture scalp treatment, in which she gives Ricky all of these crazy treatments that supposedly grow hair, and Ricky is all up for it because he wants to grow that hair back. But what I want to focus on in this video is the beginning, in which Ricky speaks Spanish. I know a lot of you maybe don't speak Spanish who love the show and maybe hear blah, 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 right, mumbo jumbo. I mean, that's what I hear when I hear other languages. You might hear this if you don't know Spanish, and so I'm going to clarify all of that for you and let you know exactly what Desi Arnaz says as the character Ricky Ricardo, and really see if this adds anything interesting to the episode so that when you see it next time, you know exactly what he says. Now, let me set the stage here. Lucy, in the beginning of the episode, is looking at herself in the mirror. What's really cool, of course, is that she's looking straight into the camera and right at the audience and at us. However, because we're watching the show and seeing from that perspective, it's almost like we're in the mirror and we're seeing what Lucy is seeing. It's a really cool effect, but it's really simple. There's no mirror, there's no camera tricks at all. It's just a perfect concept of where the camera is positioned and where the audience eyes are. It's just perfect. So she's looking and she's noticing quote-unquote crow's feet. Ricky is then looking at himself and he's noticing quote-unquote that he's getting bald. And so he keeps hammering and hammering and hammering and obsessing with it. And then Lucy finally says, "Come to bed, baldy." Okay, and that's the end of her dialogue. And then we get the beginning of Ricky's dialogue. Now, I'm going to take it step by step and translate. I love to give the literal translation and then the actual, basically the contextual translation. So Ricky basically repeats baldy after Lucy says baldy. Then he says, "Ay que barbaridad." Ay que barbaridad literally means what a barbarity, but essentially that is a popular quote in Spanish, which you say, "Oh my goodness." It's basically, "Oh my goodness." And then he continues with "Tiene razón." Now, "tiene razón" literally means she has reason. So Lucy is reasonable, or Lucy is right, essentially. And then if we continue, he says, "Se me va a caer el pelo," which basically says, my hair is going to fall out. And then he continues, "Y me van a llamar baldy." And he continues, "and they're gonna call me baldy." And he continues in Spanish, "Como le dicen a los viejos americanos aquí en este país." And then he continues, how they call, or this is what they call, the older American men here in this country. So I'll say that whole thing in Spanish and then in English to make it make sense. "Se me va a caer el pelo y me van a llamar baldy como le dicen a los viejos americanos aquí en este país," which basically says, my hair is going to fall out and they're going to call me baldy like they say to older men here in the United States, or older American men here in the United States, or here in this country. Then he finally ends with que horror, which literally means what a horror, or how horrible, or horrible, whichever one you want to say. And that's where the Spanish finishes. I hope you got a little bit interesting out of this. Again, what I love about translating the Spanish is, remember, I'm a native Spanish speaker, so when I saw this as a little boy, I understood equally the Spanish and the English, and to me it just made sense. I knew he was speaking Spanish, but it was nothing in addition. He's not saying something like, oh, I hid $5,000 under Lucy's bed, and then we don't know about it. It's only the Spanish speakers find out. It's almost like a little bit of fluff or a little bit of extra dialogue, but it doesn't really add anything to the story per se. It just adds a little bit of flavor and spice to the actual character and what he's saying. So I want to know your thoughts down below. Did you ever see this episode and wonder what he was saying? Now you know what he says. You got a good idea of what he says. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts on this. How does it make you feel now that you know what he actually said? We'll see you all next time. Thank you for supporting this 5-video marathon of I Love Lucy. If you want to see more, just let me know in the comments down below. I could do it with other shows and so forth. But after this, we're going to continue with our regularly scheduled videos. We'll see you all next time, and don't forget, be hopeful. Thank you so much to my supporters, especially my Diamond Tier patrons: Harold P, Terry Y, Jerry D, Citizen Kane 359, Jennifer P, David D, Kevin K, Sally N, and Vito L. If you want to join the Patreon community, check the link in the description below. Thank you.